And now, our seventh Patreon entry, our second in the semi-brev group, is Jaap's uh, entry, and it's just so fun. I mean, this is, it definitely has that polish to it. Just really, speaks of an experienced orchestrator. And I just really love all of the touches, the trumpet trading off with the oboes, back and forth with the flutes, and, just so many fun things to have the bassoon play this little line in here, just to give us a little bit of an internal voice. Yeah, I mean, it's done really well. I mean, there's actually, to be completely honest, there is like less for me to say here, just because so many things are working right. But I'll try to talk about things that are working right, and then for me, things that I would feel, maybe to be cautious about. This arrangement is, the mock-up for it was actually done with Note Performer from a music XML file that Jaap sent over to me, just because we were unsure about the quality of the other sound set that was used originally. And I feel it has just a much smoother sound than what I got before. But I mean, it just depends. Like, we're not really judging things by their sound sets. But the point I'm trying to make is that the tempo, that really really fast tempo, is preserved, that I used in my work and that I put into the templates, right? That and I'm just not so sure that some of this stuff would work at that speed. Some of the scoring, like for instance this cello scoring right in here. I mean, it's great that there is some time to prepare, right? And I mean, it is possible, but it's just just really requires cello playing of like the cello section playing of the first order. I would not give like this to just like the to like a semi-pro cello section where unless I was really sure that they were really good all the way through. Um, yeah, kind of nice to have motion through the sections, right? This is just really nice scoring there for strings. And then this all works with the violas inside the woodwind patterns. That's also a really nice touch. To an extent, this is sort of interacting with the bassoons, right? See, because like this, you've got this D, and then you got this this alternating little pattern in here, right? And then we've got the F going down to the E flat here, and then we've also got the E flat right in here, right? And the so like the pattern just kind of like the two parts interact with each other, and they're right around the same right around the same notes until you get up here to this tenor clef part right here. So yeah, I mean, like, really well crafted first page. Kind of cool to see the horns. I would say there's really kind of no need to do this sort of scoring where the two trade off back and forth unless they're slurred, right? So if these parts are slurred, then the sensation of them kind of flexing back and forth within their own parts is is quite intriguing if you're listening to it, right? And it makes for a super smooth kind of sound. However, just kind of going back and forth and playing between the two players, just it makes absolutely zero difference. They could be they might as well just be playing all the way through. It's interesting. Lily Boulanger did something similar to this, where she has a repeated set of notes, and then she like goes back and forth between the players. And maybe that is just for some kind of variety, so it isn't boring for them, or so that the the timbre can change slightly from voice to voice. So I don't know. It's yeah. I would say that's probably unnecessary. This is cool. These little rips up here with with the upper winds and just this little a bright uh, little flash right in here. That's all very cool. And little touch of celesta here. That will work fine, just so long as everybody else is not overplaying right in here. Then we've got our next page. We get into that episode that sort of like what I've called a scrubbing episode. Um, yeah, and this is I mean, it's interesting to go from trumpets and strings into the winds, right, and then bring back a little bit of that particular playing. Sul tasto, yeah, sul tasto to forte piano, right? So I would be wanting to know. I would guess that this would probably be intended to be non-divisi. So, but I would mark it, right? Um, and it kind of does make a difference. I think it's easier to control some of these things, tremolo, sul tasto, everything else. Like if it's if the parts are played singly, if the two voices are played by different instruments rather than in double stops. It's not that it's really all that much more difficult to play it double stopped. It's just like it's just one more thing to think about, right? And especially you've got all these flats. There aren't any open strings to play, so it's like it's not the most comfortable thing, but it's okay. I mean, yeah, and this is kind of neat. This little trill, right? So like once again, just cautioning everybody. I'm seeing a lot of the trills were transferred over to brass, including I think there was even a tuba trill, like way down at the bottom of the bass staff. So just cautioning people that like the idea of what smoothness is in a brass trill is a very different idea of what smoothness is in a string or wind trill. We can say, oh, that was such a smooth trumpet trill right there, but it's like it is a relative thing of what that is, right? So just a question of whether or not you feel that kind of almost electrical, almost it's almost like a saw, it's like it's a kind of a cutting sound, the brass trills. So whether or not you feel that is part of, if you want that added energy underneath what the winds are doing here, right? That would be my only caution. I mean, I'm sure that Jaap knows that that's what he wants, but just pointing these things out in a general sense for all the orchestrators reading this along with me, it's just like really think about those things. This score, has got these this sort of stylistic, slash note head for percussion, and if that is if that is the thing that you just are normally do in your scoring, then that's cool. If that's the way your percussionists like to read their parts, and if that's if that is something that works for you, then that's fine. I would normally just I would actually just have 3 different percussion parts and then just go back and forth between them, let the percussionists work it out, what part they wanted to play, and then also just have regular note heads. So that would be my judgment on that. But once again, coming out of this, is actually rather nice. The sense, there's a sense of variety that like Jaap is not getting stuck any particular place, right? So bassoon plus cello, right, doubling, and then violin in between that lower voice and the flutes above, then just clarinets plus bassoons in these lower strings doubling with a pluck at the end, going to the trumpet here. So yeah, so that's all fine. It has a very nice sense of variety going all the way through. So it doesn't just stay like this big wind, kind of big wind flurry right there, and just allowing these parts to be more more unique in and of themselves. The oboe going over to trumpet going back to the oboe. That makes for a nice, it almost feels like that oboe is turning into the trumpet and turning back again with the, with energy. Just I don't know if I would do this at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like if we're going, if we're having that change to the forte and then the diminuendo back to piano, I don't know if I'd put in an additional one right there. It just seems like just kind of almost gilding the lily. Gilding the lily, if you know what that is. Just like maybe just adding a little bit too much. Or not. I don't know. It's just like a detail, maybe one detail that doesn't necessarily add to the overall line, but that's just me. All right, and now we're getting into the second part from A, and just really asking everybody if they can preserve the original rehearsal numbers. That just sort of helps me keep track, and it keeps the people watching these videos, or it helps the people watching these videos to also keep track of additional sections and everything else. So yeah, so we're kind of going back to the similar approach as before. A little bit of added horn harmony and line in there. Once again, our old friends, the bassoons, or the bassoon. So please don't write A1. Just tell us which player you intend, right? So like if you just mean the first flutist, just write one period or one tiny little circle above next to it. Sort of meaning uno in Italian, or just Roman numeral 1, but don't write A1 because we don't know which person you're inviting over to dinner, right? But the last entry I mentioned, it's just like, having a couple of friends, and, if you say, well, I'm having my two friends come over for dinner, then, your parents know which two friends those are. But if you say I'm having my one friend come over instead, that doesn't tell us who that is, right? So you just tell us who that is, right? Just is that player number 1 or player number 2, right? If you say with which one, the first or the second, you have to tell us, right? So A1 is not the reduction of A2, okay? Same thing there, and so on. All right, and then just same approach as before, and then just with adding new things, like the divisi octaves, and this is all cool. This is a very easy triple stop here, just like the open D fifth with the F on top, and then I guess that's all right. You got your C, G, and we've got our D natural there, so that's pretty easy too. Yeah, so that none of that needs to be divisi. And that sort of lines up with some of the added weight that we've got here. The doubling from the oboes with the violin part, and we've got some horn down there as well. So I think that has some nice pushy emphasis without being too loud, just enough to add the trumpet right there on the last pitch. It just gives it a little bit of punch. Right, and then, right, so now we're starting to get into that second theme. Yeah, and some similar approaches as before. And I like the trading off between the voices here. The bass clarinet sort of starting off the theme, and and just kind of trading off between them and the flutes. And I think that's also very effective, and it's also extremely easy to play for the clarinet player. They barely have to do anything, and they just get answered, and it keeps things kind of nice and mixed up. And then it's a good blend as well with the celesta above. So yeah, nice blend there. And then of course just that touch of tremolo feels masterful in there, and just like pretty much just keeping time there in the strings is a really good background. And once again, we're getting into parts where I feel that you would just really need a very, very good cello player. It's just like it's totally playable, but I would not want a very casual cellist to just come and do a reading of this. Do you know what I'm saying? If they were to just play it right off the bat, no preparation, they would definitely have to dig into it a bit. And this is also, not the most instinctively simple thing to play right off the cuff, right in here. So yeah, so some of this is going to take some practice. The stuff in the clarinet though is, that's all cool. And then, good support from the bassoon. Nice stuff going on here in the horns. A lot of celesta here. Do you know what I mean? Almost would have been nice if there were some, like if you really want contrasts here, you're not using the flutes at all times, right? If there were some way to like contrast between celesta and say glockenspiel or some other bell-like instrument, from time to time, so that might have kept it from just becoming too celesta focused, right? And then, like, of course, when you pull out the flutes here, we feel their absence too, right? Just like, I mean, it didn't really stick out on the texture, that was missing too much. But maybe in a live situation, it would be a little bit more obvious. So, yeah, and then this all works pretty well. And then just, of course, moving on to our kind of mini apotheosis, where, it starts off like it almost seems like the music is going to go to this sort of burst of optimism, but then ends up back in an uncertain place. And, some scoring approaches that are similar to the beginning. I like the pizzicato timekeeping and, a little bit of C trumpet in there, and so on. So it's like, horns and bassoons, and the clarinets all sort of telescoping their harmony just down to 2 pitches. That works very well, because the timbres are so compatible. And then, of course, we have all of the the upper winds just really kind of doing a lot of the work. My only critique might be that, as full as it feels, it's actually not that rich in function, right, of the individual instruments. So if there was some way of just kind of increasing the density somehow, of what is happening in the upper voices, like whether there was more of a sense of harmony voice, or if the oboes were doing a little bit more, or some other kind of thing that might keep the it might keep it a little bit more coherent across all the parts. But then again, I mean, what you've done, I totally cannot fault it, but I'm just like offering possible alternative things, or possible ways to just improve tiny little bits if indeed they're needed at all. So anyways, just a very satisfying score. That's pretty much all I had to say about this. And just, once again, great to see, a very experienced, very, a very canny orchestrator take a crack at this, and give it their best shot, and to come up with some really great individual ideas. Just very refreshing and inspiring for me to have this big jolt of so many different options. I feel like I'm the luckiest person in this entire challenge, because I'm the person who gets to like look at every single challenge and look it over and absorb it and talk about it and enjoy it. And I know that that's a lot for a lot of, I mean, there are going to be a few people out there who end up watching every single evaluation, but I don't think that, I think that most players are probably going to watch like, maybe a dozen or so. But like, I just feel really lucky that I sort of have to do it, right? And it's really no big chore for me. I just really enjoy this. So thank you very much for sharing such a great score with us, and it is on to the next evaluation. And please follow me in having a look at our 8th Patreon website entrant in the next video.